Welcome to my MOOC on selective readings in British and American poetry. This is my 9th lecture, and I will talk about Robert Frost and his poetry. We'll start with a poetry reading aloud exercise. Then I will talk about the life of Robert Frost and his poetic theory, The Sound of Sense. And after that, we'll discuss 4 of his poems: Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, The Road Not Taken, Mowing, and Mending Wall. Now let's do poetry reading aloud exercise. First, listen to my reading aloud of his Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his honey spells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wing and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep. A miles to go before I sleep. A miles to go before I sleep. Stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his honey spells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wing and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep. A miles to go before I sleep. A miles to go before I sleep. Okay, now listen to my reading aloud of his The Road Not Taken. The Road Not Taken. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveller alone I stood, and looked down to one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the others just as fair, and having perhaps a better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had warmed them really about the same, and both that morning eagerly lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I should be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Now listen to my reading aloud of his poem Mowing. Mowing. There was never a sound beside the woods but one, and that was my long scythe whispering to the ground. What was it? It whispered. I knew not well myself. Perhaps it was something about the heat of the sun, something perhaps about the lack of sound, and that was why it whispered and did not speak. It was no dream of the gift of idle hours, or easy gold at the hand of fate or elf. Anything more than the truth would have seemed too weak to the earnest love that laid the swelling rose, not without feeble pointed spikes of flowers, pale orchises, and scared a bright green snake. The fact is the sweetest string the labor knows. My long scythe whispered and left the hay to make. Now listen to my reading aloud of his poem Mowing. Mowing. There was never a sound beside the woods but one, and that was my long scythe whispering to the ground. What was it? It whispered. I knew not well myself. Perhaps it was something about the heat of the sun, something perhaps about the lack of sound, and that was why it whispered and did not speak. It was no dream of the gift of idle hours, or easy gold at the hand of fate or elf. Anything more than the truth would have seemed too weak to the earnest love that laid the swelling rose. Not without feeble pointed spikes of flowers, and scared a bright green snake. The fact is the sweetest string the labor knows, my long scythe whispered, and left the hay to make. Okay, now listen to my reading aloud of the poem Mending Wall. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen grounds where under it, and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I have come after them and may repair where they have left not one stone on a stone, but they would have the rabbit out of hiding to please the yapping dogs. The gaps I mean no one has seen them made or heard them made, but at spring mending time will find them there. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go, to each the boulders that have fallen to each. And some are lows, and some so nearly balls we have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling them. Oh, just another kind of outdoor game, one on a side. It comes to a little more. There where it is we do not need a wall. He is all pine, I'm Abe Orchard. My apple trees will never get across and eat the corns under his pines, I tell him. It only says good fences make good neighbors. Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put the notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows, but here there are no cows? Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was worrying in or worrying out, and to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say else to him, but it is not else exactly, and rather he said it for himself. I see him there bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand, like an old stone savage armed. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods only, and the shade of trees. He will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well. He says again, good fences make good neighbors.